It is time for a guest entry. But first, a quick disclaimer. Most of the guests I've had on were recorded through Discord due to us being long distance. If the quality dips, it's due to my connection. But I hope each of these conversations brings you new knowledge of the creative and cultural arts. Greetings, fellow travelers and storytellers. Welcome to another guest entry. Today, I have Jay Rooney on to chat about all things game-related. In fact, we got so into it that I didn't get to ask him my most important questions. Next time, I will, definitely. In this conversation, we talk about video games, tabletop RPGs, Substack, and much more. Jay is the publisher and host of the award-winning newsletter, Game in Word. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Greetings, my wonderful audience. We have another guest on to discuss some deep topics related to tabletop RPGs and video games in general, and to share what they are creating. Jay Rooney, that's how you pronounce your name, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So who are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Who are you and what do you do?
So I am a lifelong passionate gamer, currently living in Northern California. I publish Game in Word, which is a weekly long-form newsletter and companion podcast that explores the intersection of games and the arts, sciences, and the humanities. Basically, I try to look at games and analyze games in their wider, more human context, if that makes sense.
Yes, so that's actually really cool because it's like being able to analyze things because we're all human and we have to like whenever we're playing things we have to also live in reality. But you know, video games is usually seen as an escapism route, but sometimes you can actually utilize games in a way to assist you through life in some regards as well. Yeah, and I think that
absolutely. I
see that a lot in tabletop RPGs, and I know there's a controversy behind video games and how people get addicted to certain things, and also there's the idea of with Call of Duty games like that, kids start to get all there's all that
violence,
violence and stuff.
Oh yes,
but we will get into that.
Yes, and I can't tell you how many times. Actually, it's pretty much every single time I come on to a non-gaming podcast or I give a talk or whatnot to a non-gaming audience. I could set my watch to just the clockwork precision, right, of the amount of time that the 5 seconds that lapse between me wrapping up my presentation and the first Q&A coming in asking specifically about violence in video games.
Yeah.
Happens every single time. I'm telling you, when I say it's so predictable I could set my watch to it, I'm only barely exaggerating. It's happened. It happens every single time. Actually, no. This morning, I was recording another one, and it was the first one in which the host didn't bring it up.
Oh, wow.
It was actually me that brought it up.
Yeah.
Admittedly, I framed it a little differently from what I received the questions.
Yeah.
But life's funny like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and especially with that specific controversy behind it, because people try to drum up some kind of drama in everything to get clicks, and that's usually the media. And I feel like that is a huge part of everything that goes on with controversies like that. But
100%.
Yeah, but before we like really dive deep into like all the crazy stuff, I actually want to know your backstory. Where did you begin with all of this? Like tell us the beginning of your trip down video games and creating content for it all.
Sure. Sure, yeah. So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yes.
Just kidding. All right, take two. All right. It was a dark and stormy night. Just kidding. All right, this time for real. So I'm a lifelong gamer. Actually, my earliest memory, the earliest memory that I still somewhat clearly was me unwrapping an NES for either for my birthday or for the holidays. It was in 1989. I was 4 years old.
Wow.
And little if my mom knew what, how monumental that moment would be in my life, I don't think she would have gotten it for me. because that thing, that little console and all its successive consoles have been with me through my whole life, through thick and thin. They've given me so many awesome memories. They've helped me build traits like persistence and patience, and they've comforted me when things were going really rough, and took me to so many worlds and introduced me to so many people that told so many wonderful stories that I wouldn't have experienced otherwise. And and I think that's I think that's in no small part related to the fact that I was a writer since I could basically pick up a pencil. And I've always had a very strong kind of creative urge, right?
I feel that.
It doesn't even have to be writing,
Yeah.
like it could be like Photoshop or whatever, right? But I need to be creating. So if I don't, my soul literally
yes,
withers.
I know that feeling. There's something about being a creative soul that it's the people who don't have that urge don't necessarily understand that we need to be able to create something or else we're going to freak out. We're going to enter into some kind of depressive state because it's like a need for us. And I've always felt that.
Absolutely. It's kind of like how our body has its own needs, to, a food, water, air, what have you. The spirit has its own needs too.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, and of course that's going to, what those needs are, there's going to be as many variations as there are people. But absolutely, if you even partially self-identify as a creative person, then that drive, that hunger to create is going to be an intrinsic part of the very core of your being.
Sometimes I also feel like it's a blessing and a curse. It's one of those things.
Yes.
Because when it's a curse, it's like you start creating something and then you pop in another idea pops into your head because you're creating that one thing, and then you can't focus on one thing at a time, and it really it's a very difficult thing to handle, and it's
absolutely, and that's why the number one killer of game development projects is scope creep.
Yeah,
because if you don't impose some structure and discipline on the team, then everyone's gonna bring their ideas, and then there's gonna then next thing you know, your cutesy little pixel art 2D platformer has become like a 3D like 4K MMO RPG, and with 30 different classes, and then it's like, and then like it just implodes under its own pressure, under its own like really it implodes under its own creative energy, would paradoxically. So it's hard, it's hard to to accept that not all of your creative babies are gonna go out into the world. And it's something we all have to reckon with at some point.
Yes. So you focused on video games, and you said you got the NES as a kid, 4 years old. You said?
Yes.
After that, like what other gaming, like were there gaming consoles that you started creating, or I mean not creating, getting?
Oh yeah, so I've owned pretty much every Nintendo console since then, both handheld, both regular console and handheld, and yes, that includes the Virtual Boy. And I've also owned a PS2, Sega Dreamcast. I currently own a Switch, obviously, an Xbox Series S, and a Steam Deck.
Were you when there were so I'm young. I'm 25. I grew up playing the PlayStation 2 when it came out. And with that, I loved PlayStation, and then when the Xbox One and PS4, Xbox One and PS3 came out, right? Was that the same time, or was that?
No, it was Xbox. It was Xbox 360
and PS3. Okay, we got the PS3. Yeah. We got the PS3 because we were a PlayStation household. But I realized that the PlayStation 3 wasn't as good as the Xbox 360 with the Halo, and I never got to really play Halo games, so I never got into that whole culture, unfortunately.
Right.
Like, cuz I love science science fantasy stuff. That's like
science fiction.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Totally, and it's fun. It's fun. And honestly, I'm not even a person who really likes FPSs, mostly because I really suck at them.
Yeah, me too.
But I really, right. I'm like a perma noob. Yeah. I'm pretty sure like my KD ratio in COD is like in the high negatives.
Oh my gosh,
that's how much I suck.
Honestly, I'm the same way. Like my friends we all got Destiny when it came out, and they had to carry me through everything that we did. Eventually, I literally just sat there and farmed and just went for it and played whenever they weren't there, so that I would get a lot better at it. And finally I got better at it, but then I can't do first person shooters. I can't. First person is difficult for me. I like third person. I don't know what it is. It's like I like seeing the character there.
Yeah. And also I think with third person, it's more acceptable to use say aim assist, right, and things like that, whereas at a first if you're doing it in a first person shooter, then your geek cred might get called into question, and if in multiplayer, then you'll get banned for cheating. but I think most third person shooters will have like an assist, if they have an assist mode, that part of that will be like the aim assist.
Yeah.
I know for me that helps a lot. Another thing that helps a lot is in Splatoon, one of the classes you can pick is the roller. So instead of having to aim and with my jittery hands and and go all, then shoot all over the place. I just take a roller full of paint. I just run around like covering the arena in ink. I don't know if you play Platoon at all or know the premise.
I feel like I've played it before, but a long time ago. I'm not. I recognize the name.
Yeah. Yeah, so in Splatoon, like the way you win is so all your characters have like ink tanks, right? And whoever covers the most of the stage in your team's ink color wins. Like so that team wins, right?
I know that game. Yeah, I know that game.
Yeah. Yeah. So the rollers are good for for inking a lot of area, right? But they're but against like any range weapons, they're basically sitting ducks, right? So you have to have at least some shooters, or snipers and all that to make sure that they don't get picked off, right? It's kind of like a MOBA in that way. So not really either, but yeah, fun game.
Speaking of,
yeah, and as far as
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh no, I was gonna say, like, just as far as tabletop games, I would say my current favorite is probably Forgotten Waters.
Forgotten Waters,
and this is besides
yeah,
and this is besides D&D, of course. I mean, D&D goes without saying.
Yeah,
but Forgotten Waters is a fun. Right. If I'm talking to you here, then it's pretty much a given. Yeah, Forgotten Waters. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
It's okay. Forgotten Waters. I don't think I've. Is Forgotten? It's a tabletop RPG, or is it like a board game, or?
So it's a board game with a lot of RPG elements. So so it has the board and and the tiles and all that, and then whatever, yada yada, you collect your gold, da da da. But there's also so it's a co-op game, right? So you play as a crew of magical pirates, basically. Okay. So each of the pirates, has a pre-made character sheet, right? And then there's RPG style character progression, right? So you can gain, they don't call it XP, but it's basically XP, right? And you can quote unquote level up, basically. There's a very strong narrative and kind of like act out, like actual role play element to it as well.
Interesting.
I would actually say it's kind of like I would actually say it's like an RPG light. That's how I would describe it. Which also makes it very accessible to people who don't usually play tabletop. Or like my wife does not, doesn't play games at all. Like video games, not even like card games, not even like Monopoly or something. Right? Just games just do not click for her. But she actually had a lot of fun playing this game because she's an English teacher. So she's very much a storyteller, and so I noticed she really gravitates to the narrative side of RPGs a lot.
Yeah, that's very.
Yes, I think I found my in.
That's good. That's really good because honestly, if my girlfriend, when I first started making my game, she was not a nerd at all or anything like that. I basically had to pull it out of her, and she would read stories and stuff, and so I used to write stories, and she'd read them. And then when I first started making my own tabletop RPG, she started playing in it. And like at first, I was playing D&D before that, and then a Star Wars, like the Star Wars Force and Destiny game. I love Star Wars, so like we tried to get her in on the Star Wars stuff. She ended up making like an Ewok character, and it's like she didn't like
nice.
she played it, but it wasn't like a full thing until I started making my game and then putting her through like the story that I was creating, and she very much enjoyed it and started getting really into it. She'll probably be listening to this episode, and if you are listening, we're gonna have to continue to play your character, because in my podcast she has a character too.
Yeah, that's right. My wife, honey, if you're listening to this too, keep at it. Keep at it. There's a game out there for you. There is a game out there for you somewhere.
There's a game out there for everyone.
Yes, exactly. Like, how could there not be? I mean, like that's like saying like there's like there's no music for me, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, there is. You just haven't found the type of music that really connects with you, right?
Yeah.
And
so going back to video games, I actually want to ask you a question. What is your favorite genre of, or like type of video game? I know that's kind of, a very vague question. Like you could go anyway.
Yeah. I think just based on what I've told you, I think you could probably guess.
I don't know. I feel like it's everything.
RPGs.
RPGs? I was gonna think like strategy or I was gonna guess like strategy or something.
Yeah.
But
actually, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do love those games too. Yeah. But RPGs are definitely my jam.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what is there a specific like franchise or RPG franchise that you enjoy the most, or like a few that you can name off?
Yes. Oh, yes. So my favorite RPG of all time, which also happens to be my favorite game of all time, is Earthbound.
Earthbound,
followed closely by yes.
I don't think I've heard. Of that
ever heard of that game?
I don't think I have.
So it came out in 1995 for the SNES, and it was really obscure for a long time because it was kind of critically panned because it had very simple, colorful, like pixel graphics at a time when everyone's going like, oh, more realistic blood, 10 out of 10. So the critics panned it. It was a commercial flop. And it was just kind of like languished in obscurity until they included the protagonist, Ness, as a playable character in Smash Brothers. And more people started to kind of like, hey, who's this guy? And kind of started to learn more about it. And now it's built up quite a, I'd say quite a, I'll be diplomatic and say very passionate cult following. And fortunately, they've been vocal enough that, that Nintendo's been persuaded to re-release it on Nintendo Switch Online, which was, I almost fainted when I saw that in the direct they announced it. I was like, no way, no effing way. Like 25 years, I never thought this day would come.
Finally.
Yeah. It is a wonderful, wonderful game. It is it's very much like a genre bender and a theme bender. So mechanically, it's there's nothing really like outstanding or spectacular about the mechanics. You're basically your standard 90s era Dragon Quest-esque JRPG, right? And it doesn't stray far from that mold at all. But its settings, so it's set not in some medieval European facsimile, but in a very affectionate Japanese parody of 1990s America.
A Japanese parody of 1990s America.
Yes, or I guess like what the Japanese imagine like 1990s America like is like, right? And slightly exaggerated for comedic effect.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I gotta attend to my family real quick. Can
No
you
worries.
give me a minute?
No worries. Go ahead.
Yeah. So hold on. I got it.
Yeah.
So Earthbound is so the game designer is a genius slash madman by the name of Shigesato Itoi. And he is Shigesato Itoi, and I can spell it out for you in the chat if you want.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pronounce that.
So he is. I mean, when you think of a polymath and like a Renaissance man, like he is that to a T, to the point that like he practically fits the archetype. This man is a freaking genius. He's done everything from writing novels to writing ad copy to voice acting. He voiced the dad in Totoro, in My Neighbor Totoro, in the Japanese, in the original Japanese. He did. What did he do? He's the president of or he's on the board of like the world like championship like regulating body for checkers.
Really?
He's won many fishing trophies. He actually like went out like digging for buried gold and like filmed it like 20 years before reality TV was even a thing. The guy is
you're right. He's brilliant and a madman. Like
and crazy.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of his larks was, I want to make a video game, so he approached, Nintendo and specifically Miyamoto, for that. Mm-hmm. Ask mom, I'm recording. All right. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just right. So this guy, this brilliant and confounding mind, got it in his head one day that he wanted to make a video game. Mm-hmm. So he approached this is like in the late 80s, right? So he approached the fine folks at Nintendo and specifically Miyamoto himself to pitch an idea, and they kind of refined the pitch a few times, but then they greenlit it, and of course then they were always going to greenlight it because the dude's like he's basically a celebrity in Japan, right? Yeah. So he'd never like made a game before, didn't know how to code, didn't like. Wasn't familiar with kind of like storytelling best practices in games because there weren't any, because it was like everyone was still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he ended up creating, no joke, one of the most beautiful stories that I've ever experienced, not just in video games, but in any medium, like period. And its sequel, Mother 3, which unfortunately hasn't been released outside of Japan, but there are fan translations out there. As long as you own a legal copy, just want to put that out there. I don't condone software piracy. But the sequel, Mother, because the series is called Mother in Japan, right? So Earthbound is Mother 2, right? So it's the second game. So the first one wasn't released outside of Japan either until very recently. For the Switch, so I just called it Earthbound for the North American localization. And so yeah, Mother 3 is an even more beautiful story, but it's also a much darker and heavier story.
Mm.
Like constant warnings up the wazoo, like death, like
Oh, so
body horror.
it's not rated E for everyone?
No. It's if it were to get a release, I would say T at the very least, and even then I'd give it maybe a 10% shot. I really think it would be rated M because it is a very dark game, but also a very beautiful game because in spite of its darkness, it always carries like this kind of like spark of a very sincere optimism and sense of hope, right? You play through this whole game, where you're basically, have a front seat row to what, rampant materialism, greed, and capitalism does to a community and to the environment, up to the point of bringing on the apocalypse. Oh, spoilers, by the way. Major spoilers for these games. But throughout it all, there's always, this kind of sense that, maybe just maybe our better natures could win out in the end. And, and these games are very vague and because very much open to interpretation, right? So almost like whatever you make of it is just as valid as, what I do. But yeah, like I even in spite of its darkness, I thought it was really a very optimistic game, strangely enough. And it's like, it's being able to pull off like that type of paradoxical juxtaposition that I think really illustrates Itoi-san's like unparalleled genius. And Earthbound isn't nearly as dark, though it does veer suddenly into some very dark territory every now and then, which is so effective because the rest of the game is kind of like cartoony and cheery, and and the script is so well done. Like it's witty, it's sharp, it's insightful. So you have this kind of like cheery like veneer, right? But then when it does take a turn for the dark, it totally catches you completely off guard.
Yeah, it just kind of smacks you in the face, and you're just like, oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, I actually really like those kinds of games.
Yeah,
and stories in general.
Check it out.
Yeah,
check it out. It's on the Switch.
It's on the Switch. Okay, I'm gonna have to ask my brother to borrow it because I don't have a Switch.
Yeah,
that's honestly something
it'll be.
I should definitely get is a Switch. But also, the thing about me is that I don't necessarily play very very many video games, because I'm so focused in the tabletop, like in the tabletop arena. That it's just, and I'm making my game, so it's like I don't have time to really distract myself with something else. But I do like taking the occasional journey to a different story and like RPG
realm.
Yeah.
And I totally feel that, because ever since, launching this publication and doing it full time, there is a big distinction now between like games that I play for fun and games that I play for work, which is so freaking poetic. I love it. It's like a Zen koan. It's like a Zen koan.
Speaking of your publication, it's Game and Word, and it's on Substack. How is that?
Correct.
How is that whole world going? Because I recently started my Substack last year, so and I mainly focus on my universe and stuff, and like posting my podcast there. But you have like your whole thing going on there. Go ahead and dive into that a little bit if you like.
Yeah, sure. So one of the many things I like about Substack is how they're always trying to find ways to kind of like whatever you want to do, will make it easy so you can just sit down and write, right? And I remember I launched my Substack around the same time that they launched like their podcast feature, and where it's you upload the audio to Substack, and then you write a regular post, can be your episode notes, whatever, and then you adjust a couple of settings on the back end, and then when it publishes, it'll also send it to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the major podcasting platforms, and it makes it really easy to do it. And they're trying to do the same thing with video. With video, I don't think they're quite there yet, but that could hold a lot of potential. And they recently introduced subscriber chat, which is kind of like a micro Twitter thing. So basically Twitter without Twitter, which makes it like better by default.
Yes, definitely. I haven't started using subscriber chat just because like I have my own Discord server that I use, and I would have used subscriber chat if my Discord didn't get so active like recently. So because it's active, I'm mostly like focused on getting people there rather than getting people into Substack talking there. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. And that's one thing that I actually recently suggested to them was like maybe more integrations, for some of us, a Discord and access to a Discord server is a very valuable perk.
Yeah, that would be actually really great, because right now they have the Twitter feature where you can post any of your posts to Twitter, like
Twitter
right off the bat, and then it also goes to people's emails as well, so like that are subscribed. So that's good, but having a Discord feature, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Like making their own Discord bot for Substack, and then it's like the Substack subscribers can then get like perks inside the Discord or something like that, like special voice channel where you can talk to like an ask me anything kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's what I hope to use the threads for at some point. Like a Discord would be perfect for that. Right. But without there being a direct integration, then, you have to go through another third party app and then make sure all the dominoes are lined up, but then, then suddenly one of them falls and it's just this a royal pain in the ass. So, but yeah, I guess it'll be chat until they add Discord integration.
Yeah. So
another thing I really like about Substack is that they have a really good, like the way that they encourage like growth, like like list growth is I think brilliant, because it's not like social media, right? There's no algorithm deciding who's going to see what at any given moment. What you see is basically, unless if you're not directly searching for something, then then what you see is stuff that has been recommended to you by other Substack writers.
Yes, yeah. The recommendations feature is pretty good with that.
The recommendations. It is amazing. Like I think 60% of my subscriber growth comes from recommendations alone. Yeah.
Well, I'm now recommending Game and Word. So if you go to my Substack audience, go check out Game and Word.
Really appreciate it.
So,
and I will do likewise for you too, because I've started skimming through your Substack, and I've gotten in too deep, but I dig the concept, and
you can go in pretty deep if you. I don't write too many posts because I'm mainly like doing podcasts and live streams,
right,
and then also working on my game. My game is on my official website. The Substack is mostly to try to branch into the audience on Substack and just pulling the features that I have from my website to Substack. And then people can then like subscribe there, and if they subscribe there, I'll give them a promotion code to to actually be also subscribed on my official website, so that they can play my game as well. And that's kind of like how I
got it.
made it. But with that, I know that like I have a lot of content coming out, and this I'm sure like some of my audience is like, slow down there, because I have literally this my
I mean,
all of 2022.
Have they actually like given you that feedback?
Well, one of my buddies, my buddy Jaren,
you may want to pull. You may want to pull your audience on that, because you'd be surprised. Like my issues average around 5,000 words every week, right? And in the beginning, I was part of a writers group in the beginning, and I was totally mismatched. I really, because they didn't have a gaming category, still don't have a gaming category, so I really should have been with like the history folks or the philosophy folks. They put me in with the culture folks, the type who write like angst-ridden first-person essays about about how much their life sucks, and how and how deep they are because they're so angsty all the time. And they are all said like oh, it's too long, one of them even said like that he had like a physical reaction from it. I'm not even kidding.
Really?
And I was just like, and I was like, well, screw you guys, you're not the target audience, and then then after I was kind of, because eventually after a while I started thinking, wait, like what if they were right or something, so then I created a survey for and I was like, all right, well, what would be a good publishing schedule, right? So, shorter, more frequent, longer, less frequent, whatever. And almost everyone said, it's fine just the way it is.
Yeah. For me, my scheduling is based off of, so what I do is I have a live stream campaign that I'm running that it goes bi-weekly on Tuesdays. And the campaign itself, the storyline, ties directly into the podcast. And so I spent literally basically most of 2022 recording game sessions and different series from like my game, like for different characters. So there's like different story arcs going on, and it's an anthology. So it's like based in like different time periods. So I'm trying to tie it into
that must have been intense.
It is honestly, if I were to tell you, like I'm trying not to like toot my own horn or anything like that. I commend my players for how well they played their characters and how amazing the stories are. Jaren, my player who says I have a lot of content coming out. He plays two characters like at the same time, kind of going back and forth, and it's like a good character and a bad character, and they butt heads.
Wow,
butt heads, and it's a huge series that's going to be coming out later this year.
That is talent. That is talent right there.
It is like, insane how great the stories are inside of it. I do recommend listening to it all. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not trying to shill too much.
I'm definitely intrigued.
I'm just excited.
No, it's totally fine. Yeah, no, that sounds. I mean, just hearing that, I'm like, what? Wow, because in my group, one of so my group, they're mostly like level 3 characters, and because I am an insane, diabolical madman, I thought it would be a great idea to give them access to the deck of many things.
At level 3. At level 3.
Level 3. Yeah.
Oh my! We got it at like level like 14.
Yeah. I know. I don't know what got into me, but I'm kind of excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
But one of them got a basically like another. He had to create another character. Because he had
I feel like
basically like a familiar sort of.
I feel like that has to happen. I feel like that has to happen every time a group gets the deck of many things. Like, it happens at least once, because when we got it, someone ended up pulling a card, and then they had to make another character so that they could play with us.
Yeah. It was the knight. It was the knight card. That's the one it was. And so funny because the whole session, like, he basically forgot that like that his secondary character was like right there, like, with him. And so finally, like, it's like, oh wait, you're still there, like, and all right, so he rolled initiative, took his place, and then delivered the kind of like the final blow to it was a mean lock. And so rather than have the mean lock die, I had it kind of shadow teleport out and take the character with him. So it's like, oh, I haven't used him all morning. I mean, all evening, and now he's gone. Like, I'm a monster. Like, well, I mean, not quite that, right? But, but there's definitely a renewed vigor. And it's like, no, well, here's what we know about these creatures, what they do, where they are. Like, we have to go, like, to the mines, and we have to get them now. Right. And it just injected a whole new, like, second wind into the party. And it was very satisfying.
That's good. Well, it's so interesting how, like, some of the the randomized elements of tabletop RPGs end up working so well with the story. That happens practically all the time for me. It's the strangest thing. I feel like there's something cursed but blessed about my dice whenever I'm rolling for random things to happen for my characters. It's like it fits so well with the story, but sometimes it's like the worst thing. Like, there's some tragic things that happen for some of my characters, but it fits. It just works so well for the story, and I'm on the edge of my seat because I don't really plan out my sessions. I mostly improvise them. So everything is like, it's just popping up into my head.
That's what I should do.
But I mean, I don't know if it's like you should also prep sessions for certain things to happen. Yeah. It's just, I don't like prepping.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm I'm the type of person, I just the creative urge is just so strong, that I'll come in with like a whole, with like an Elder Scrolls like level like amount of lore, ready to go. I'm just that type of person, right? So it's another, another thing that's great about games, I guess tabletop games generally. Another thing games have taught me, like a non-attachment and letting go. Like with writers, especially, there's this whole adage. It's like you kill your babies. It's basically sometimes there's a passage you really, really, really like. Yeah, you love how it sounds. You love it. Everything about it, but it doesn't fit in with the rest of the work. Yeah. So you have to cut it. And each time it is psychically, spiritually, emotionally, excruciating, but you got to do it, And so running a campaign is a great way to get you to practice.
Yeah, practice that.
Not getting too attached
to
your ideas.
You will see that's the thing, is that when you are running a campaign, you have to keep it open ended and allow for multiple paths for the players to go down. And even with allowing for multiple paths, the players probably won't go down that path. And then you will have to figure it out.
They'll start shooting arrows at the tavern sign.
Yep.
Just because they were bored. Which is a true story, by the way.
Wow. It's just, target practice for sure.
Yeah. Hey. Yep. Can't argue with that.
All right.
Or it's like I don't know if you saw the Reddit thread of the campaign where every single player were lizard folk.
Oh, that's something I actually want to do.
Look it up.
Eventually,
look it up.
Everyone was lizard folk.
It is. Everyone was. It is like laugh out, like ROFLMAO funny.
Yeah, that's something that I actually really do want to try out, is having even if it's like a one shot or like a little mini thing where every character is playing like the same kind of thing, just like a variant of it, like so same kind of class, like all of them are clerics, but like they're different kinds of clerics. They're all dwarves. Right. And so they're all like, messing around with each other. And that's something I actually want to be a part of, so that we can all like make a joint backstory and then have like a full on, just amazing time playing around with each other and seeing where the story goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are, kind of like those organic moments are almost always the most memorable ones. Like even in video games that allow that to some extent, like in Breath of the Wild, for example, right? Big open world, you can go wherever you want, but there is a main story, and there are a series of kind of like important quests and all that. But my favorite memories, like my most like treasured memories from that game, were all from times when I was either A, straight up lost, or B, just kind of like willy-nillying, like twiddling my thumbs, just like mucking about without any set objective in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
And then next thing I know, what's that? What's that like in the valley? Oh, like it's two bokoblins trying to hunt a boar, and they suck at it. I'm so glad I didn't do the next main quest.
There was one time for me that I had that where I was in Skyrim and I was going up. I was in just like a forest somewhere, and then all of a sudden I think it was a giant came out of nowhere. And this is when I was like low level, and I was like freaking out. I was like, "Oh shit, a giant!" And then suddenly two dragons come and start fighting the giant in front of me, and I'm running away from them at like low health, and I'm like, "Oh god!" And I had to jump off the mountainside. And it was great. I always tell that kind of that story to anyone who's like talking to me about Skyrim, who's like saying like, oh, I leveled all these things up. I'm like, I wasn't doing it to level up as a character. I was doing it to just have fun and just roam around in a world. And that's my favorite thing about RPGs, is being able to roam around in the world and do my thing. Like I'll end up
100%.
Yeah, I'll end up like playing Assassin's Creed, and I'll start up like playing the storyline, and then eventually once I get to it, I'll just go around finding people to kill and just jump on to and then climb onto buildings and then go and find another group and stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that with Sea of Thieves. Because like, it's like, it's basically an MMO, but you play a pirate instead of a wizard. Like, that is like, I mean, automatic awesome. Like,
you
no
like,
matter what.
You like playing pirates? You like playing pirates in your stuff?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Are you more of a?
Why do you have a?
I mean, I have like pirate lore inside my universe. I haven't gotten to like truly explore inside my podcast really, and like that's like stuff that I plan on eventually doing. But
right.
But are you more of like a fantasy style like player or like sci-fi, or like which one is your, or are you like both of them combined?
I would say my preferred flavor, or I guess it's called genre. So it's called genre. I guess my preferred like RPG genre is probably fantasy. But then also I really like, say, like magical realism. I like science fantasy as well, for that matter.
Science fantasy is my favorite.
Steampunk. Science fantasy is awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely. And actually, my wife is a middle school teacher, and I'm actually running a campaign for her creative writing club. And it's a mixture of science fantasy and steampunk.
Nice.
And it's more like, I mean, I'm technically the GM, but it's more like I'm trying to teach them, how to create a world and a story, right? So it's more like I guide them through the process, right? So it's all them, this is all their creation. And it's a post-apocalyptic science fantasy steampunk, and it is awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, science fantasy is like what my universe is all based around, and I pull inspiration from Mass Effect, Star Wars, Star Trek.
Ooh, yes, of course.
Yeah, those are like my main. I feel like Mass Effect is I would say the closest kind of science fantasy. To mine.
Mass Effect. Yeah, because it's funny too, because after Mass Effect came out, like, every sci-fi show under the sun basically like started like ripping off its look. And I totally agree. It's I'd say it's the textbook example of a science fantasy RPG.
Well, with that,
in a video game,
yes, in a video game. But with that,
yes,
I think that is a good place to end our conversation. Even though I feel like we could continue and just go on for several hours. If you want to shout out anything,
I mean, I'm not in any rush. But if you have to go, I get it.
Yeah, I have a thing tonight. I'm actually going to a D&D club, a D&D club meeting for the first time.
Of course,
they have one here in Southern California, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to it just to network and see what it's all about.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I would never keep you from something like that. We're in Southern California area.
It's in Newport, actually, like Costa Mesa, Newport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I have family in San Diego and a lot of friends in LA. So I now trekked down there. I'm in Northern California.
Well, so now you have me in Orange County. So
awesome. Great. So we'll if you want to go dungeoning, if I ever need to go dungeoning, well, I'm in the area. I know who to call.
Yes, exactly.
But and I mean it. Like, I know I'm kind of joking.
I mean, yeah.
Actually, no. I really do mean it.
For sure. If you are ever in the area, hit me up. Yes. If you're ever in the area, hit me up, and I'll bring my entire setup, because I have this cool podcast setup. I don't know if you know what the Rodecaster Pro is, but it's like a podcasting like system thing, and it's portable, and it like you put headphones on, and I get some like cinematic epic music on there, and then we're just on for a ride, and God knows where.
Would you mind maybe pasting a link in the chat? Because that sounds awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, I could definitely share with you.
Definitely something I'd buy.
Yes, they actually
Awesome.
just came out with their newest version of it, and I really want it, but I bought it right before they came out with the newest version, and it just sucks. It's like, damn it, why? But anyways, if you have anything
it's so funny. Yeah, so funny. Yeah, when you just Go ahead.
If you have anything to shout out, go ahead and shout it out for the audience.
Yes, of course. So as I mentioned earlier, I publish Game and Word. It is a free weekly long-form newsletter that analyzes video games from many different lenses, be it history, art, literature, psychology, economics, physics, spirituality. Did I say philosophy already? I said philosophy. And just about anything under the sun. I cover both retro and modern, AAA and indie of all different genres, and you have nothing to lose.
Yes.
Free to sign up.
Go ahead, and
if you want to access the archives, you can upgrade to a paid subscription. But if you sign up, you'll get every latest issue for free, delivered to your inbox every Sunday morning.
Perfect.
That's a hell of a deal, if you ask me.
Yes, it is. Everyone, go check out Game and Word. Hopefully, maybe I will be on there eventually, and we'll see.
I would love to have you on.
Awesome.
Actually,
awesome. We'll get that set up. We'll get that set up for sure.
Yes.
Well,
yes. Let's.
Thank you, Jay, for coming on to the podcast. Thank you all for listening to our conversation, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. I thank you for listening to our conversation. Be sure to check out Game and Word at substack.com. Also, if you'd like to explore more of the new expanding universe, there are links for that as well. Until next time, travelers, be safe, stay safe, and if death comes to you, may you be reborn in power.